Hey guys, my name is Priyanka and I'm a watercolor artist. Welcome to my channel. I hope you had a look at my last tutorial on watercolor textures where I had shown some easy to obtain textures which not only enhance the look of our paintings but also make certain effects come out very beautifully and easily. Today I bring to you some more texture effects which I'm sure you will love to try and you will benefit a lot from those. I will be using all household ingredients for those, so let's get started. I'll be using a cold pressed handmade watercolor paper, 300 GSM, artist watercolors, and a combination of natural hair and artificial hair brushes. So the first texture that I'm going to create today is by using baking soda. So I take almost 1/4 teaspoonful of baking soda and mix almost 2.5 ml of water in it. Okay. So I'll first give a flat wash with I'm using Prussian blue pigment here. Okay, and after the flat wash with a clear brush, I will drop some drops of baking soda here. Baking soda is a versatile ingredient whose uses extend far beyond cooking. It helps remove stains, so it takes away the pigment as well and adds beautiful textures to our paintings. We have to wait for some time for the soda to disperse the pigment to create bloom-like effects. You can try this texture effect in a number of ways, like very watery pigment plus soda drops, medium watery pigment consistency plus soda drops, less water consistency in the pigment plus soda drops, and just see for yourself the different kind of bloom effects it creates. For example, this one is with less water consistency in the pigment plus soda drops. Look at the bloom it creates. Now here also the pigment is quite thick and then I have put soda drops. This one is with a little more watery pigment than this one. So medium water consistency in the pigment and then soda drops. Whereas this one is with very watery pigment and then soda drops on it. In fact, this one also. You can create any kind of designs that you want. This is the sun kind of a fiery effect. So these effects come very well with soda. Now look at the effect that it has already started to create. So you will have to try these effects yourself, and then depending on the kind of painting you are creating, the kind of effect you want on it, you will mix that much water in the pigment. We'll let it dry and meanwhile come to our second texture for the day, which is using vinegar. So for this also, I'm first going to give a flat wash to the area to be painted, and then with a clear brush, I'm going to drop vinegar on this. Now, vinegar has a very high acid content and causes bleaching. It bleaches the pigment, causing new patterns and shapes to form. You can use this to paint clouds, great underwater effects, or create beautiful backgrounds for your paintings. In my last tutorial on watercolor textures, I had shown you to create these cloudy effects using lemon juice. Now lemon juice is also acidic, but vinegar is more acidic than lemon juice. So the effects this creates is going to be bigger. So more fuller clouds, more bleached effect is what vinegar gives us. It's best for you to try these kinds of effects yourself using vinegar, using lemon juice, and then probably you will arrive on the best clouds for you. Whether it's vinegar that gives you the best clouds or it's lemon juice which gives you the best effect is what you will arrive at once you have practiced these effects yourself. So now we will let it dry, and meantime we will come to our third texture, which is by using baking soda and vinegar together. Isn't that going to be interesting? So this is baking soda, this is vinegar, but what happens when we mix baking soda and vinegar together? Let's see. So for this one, I'm going to prepare my pigment using baking soda water. So let me prepare a little bit here and give a flat wash. So here for making the pigment, instead of plain water, I'm using baking soda water. And now taking a clear brush, let's drop vinegar on it. See, it's completely bleaching my pigment. Okay, and see, if you want, you can do this poking. If you want white, drop like this to appear as well. So this is what baking soda plus vinegar is giving us. This was only baking soda. Can you see very fiery sunny rays kind of effect? This was vinegar, more bleaching, and this is baking soda plus vinegar together. Let's wait for this to dry as well, and now we are going to use our fourth kitchen element, which is sugar. I've taken almost 1/4 teaspoonful of sugar in, say, 1 tablespoon water. So let me start by giving a clear wash of this sugary syrup on the paper. So a thin layer of sugar water mix on the paper prior to painting allows our watercolor paint to adhere to the dissolved crystals of sugar, which are now dispersed on the piece of paper. It also helps to disperse the pigment well, and our work has a sugary sheen on it. So now we come to our next texture for the day, which is wet salt on paint. I've taken rock salt here, almost the same 1/4 teaspoon of salt in 1 tablespoon of water. I'll mix it well. So I give a clear wash of salt water on the paper. Now salt, as I had shown in my previous video on watercolor textures, it absorbs the pigment, creating beautiful snowflake effects. But what happens when we apply clear salt water wash on the paper and then the pigment on it? Let's see. See how the pigment flows. The salt tries to push watercolor pigment away, creating amazing effects. The pigment remains brighter as compared to when we put pigment only on clear water wash. So in comparison to clear water wash and pigment on it, the application of salt water and then pigment looks much brighter. So here the dispersion and the pulling effect of pigment will also be more than it was on when we used clear wash. I'll show you that also. Clear wash plus wet paint vis-a-vis clear salt wash on wet paint. Now let's come to our next texture, which is wet paint plus water drops. So let me take some black pigment for this. And now I will just drop some clear water on this. Now see, obviously clear water will also disperse the pigment away, but the effect will be different than what vinegar or baking soda or vinegar plus baking soda creates. It also helps to create clouds, but those are different from the other techniques. So I say the same thing again. It all depends on your practice, and then you will be able to decide which technique you want to use and where. So now we come to our next technique, which is clear wash plus wet paint. It is also called the wet on wet technique. So I give a clear wash on the paper and now wet paint on this. This technique is used to create beautiful bleeds and blooms between areas of pigment and allow the watercolor paint to spread and blend. The amount and look of spread and blooms will be different in each. Like when we use sugar water plus wet paint, salt water plus wet paint, only clear water plus wet paint. The effect and the look will be different in all these three. So again, when you keep practicing, you are soon able to realize what kind of bloom effect you want to give in what kind of a painting. So that's why the most important in watercolor painting is patience and practice. There are a lot of techniques like this. With practice, you'll be able to know which technique you have to use where to give what kind of an effect. Okay, so for the last technique of the day, I was actually planning to show pulling, but then I remembered that pulling I had already discussed in my previous tutorial. So I'll be using a body scrub to give the texture effect. Let's start. Let me start by giving a flat wash and then pigment on the scrub. Just look at this. The way wet pigment spreads on the wet paint. Beautiful sparkling effects. So let's do a quick recap. This was baking soda, which creates this kind of fiery effects, and these blooms depend on the amount of water in the pigment. A watery pigment gives something like this. A slightly less watery pigment gives these results, and a thicker pigment, relatively thicker pigment, gives these kinds of effects. This was vinegar. This was baking soda plus vinegar. Now see, once they are almost dried, we can see the amount of whiteness which baking soda plus vinegar has, because the acid in the vinegar has almost taken away or bleached all the pigment from the area, plus baking soda which has given more effect. So this is whiter as compared to only vinegar or only baking soda. Then we come to sugar. Sugar coating and then pigment on it. Pulling effect is what it creates, but with a sheen. Then this is salt water plus pigment. Now once it dries, you can see the beautiful salt crystals and the beautiful effect which they create. Just look at this effect. Okay, it's very beautiful. Now these are also the two effects which I have done using salt water wash plus pigment. Just see the beautiful salt crystals which you can see here, and the pulling effect is much more as compared to the pulling which comes with only a clear wash. Flat wash of any color plus water drops on it. This is clear wash plus wet paint. The effect here and the effect here are different. Then this is of course our wet paint and a body scrub on that, a jute body scrub. So guys, these were some more watercolor textures which we discussed today. I hope you liked the tutorial and you will benefit from this. Practice a lot. Practice these effects with less water, with more water, with less vinegar, more baking soda, less baking soda. Mix and match these effects together and you will arrive on the perfect effect for your perfect painting. Thank you so much for watching. In case you like the tutorial, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Let's meet again soon in the next tutorial. Till then, stay safe. Goodbye.